What's the most anti-science lie your kid's teacher has ever taught is fact? My 7-year-old daughter Ruby came home from second grade last month bouncing off the walls, talking about how she's gonna ride a T-Rex when she grows up. Ms. Lewis said humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time, she said, shoving a drawing in my face. It was a picture of her riding a T-Rex with a caveman waving in the background. She said people rode dinosaurs like horses. Why don't we have dinosaur bones with human bones at the museum, Dad? I stared at the drawing, my jaw on the floor. I've been a field archaeologist for 17 years and the curator of paleontology at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science for 8 years. I've dug up dinosaur fossils in Wyoming and human artifacts in Utah, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, this is the most pervasive debunked myth about dinosaurs out there. Dinosaurs minus birds went extinct 66 million years ago when the asteroid hit. Modern humans didn't evolve until 300,000 years ago. That's a 65.7 million year gap between the last non-bird dinosaur and the first human. That's longer than the time between now and when the dinosaurs went extinct. Humans and dinosaurs never walked the earth together. Ruby, that's not true, I said gently, pulling up the museum's geologic timeline on my tablet. Ms. Lewis is wrong. Ruby frowned, crossing her arms. No, she's not. She's my teacher. She showed us a cartoon of cavemen with dinosaurs. She knows more than you. It broke my heart. This wasn't just a silly cartoon myth. It was teaching my daughter, who's obsessed with dinosaurs and wants to be a paleontologist when she grows up, to ignore basic geologic science. That night, I emailed Ms. Lewis, introducing myself as Ruby's dad and the museum's paleontology curator, offering to come in the next day with fossil replicas and a timeline to teach the class real dinosaur history. She wrote back, excited about the fun, hands-on lesson. The next afternoon, I showed up with a cast of a T-Rex tooth, a cast of a human skull, a giant geologic timeline poster, and footage from our museum's dinosaur digs. 25 kids sat cross-legged on the rug, eyes wide at the T-Rex tooth. Ms. Lewis beamed from the front. I heard you guys learned that humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time, I said, holding up the two casts. The whole class nodded, Ruby included, still a little unsure. I unrolled the giant timeline poster, pointing to the 66 million year mark. This is when the last dinosaurs died. This tiny little line at the very end, that's when humans evolved. There's 65.7 million years between them. That's so long your brain can barely even imagine it. Humans never saw a live T-Rex, never rode one, never lived with them. The kids gasped, leaning in to look at the timeline. Ms. Lewis's smile vanished. The kids love the dinosaur cartoons, she started. I flipped to the Colorado second grade science standards. The state curriculum requires you to teach the geologic timeline and dinosaur extinction, Ms. Lewis. Your lesson is not just wrong, it's anti-science. A boy raised his hand. So Jurassic Park is a lie. The class erupted in whispers and Ms. Lewis's face turned bright red. Thank you, Mr. Henderson, but we need to get back to reading, she snapped, rolling up the timeline mid-lesson. That Friday, Ruby came home in tears, holding her timeline drawing assignment. She'd drawn dinosaurs on one end of the timeline, humans on the other, with the 66 million year gap marked in between. Ms. Lewis had marked it incorrect, with a big red X and written at the bottom. Rude, corrects the teacher in class. Rewrite. Ruby told me she called her a brat in front of the whole class for saying dinosaurs and humans didn't live together. I saw red. I scheduled a meeting with Principal Carter first thing Monday, bringing the USGS geologic data, state science standards, Ruby's assignment, and a letter of support from the museum's head of paleontology. Principal Carter listened quietly, then called Ms. Lewis in. When confronted, she huffed, "It's a fun myth for kids. They don't need to know the complicated numbers." I lost my cool. "Fun, my daughter wants to be a paleontologist and you just told her her life's passion is wrong. You're teaching 25 kids to ignore basic science because you're too lazy to check a textbook. This isn't fun, it's lazy anti-science teaching." 2 weeks later, the school announced Ms. Lewis would be attending a mandatory K-5 science literacy workshop, and they'd be updating the elementary science curriculum to include accurate dinosaur and geologic history. Ruby's assignment was regraded to an A+, and Ms. Lewis wrote her a note. "Wonderful love of science, never stop asking questions." But when I signed up to chaperone the class's museum field trip, my name was crossed off the list. Ruby now volunteers with the museum's junior paleontologist program every weekend, and she still runs up to me every day after school. "Dad, is this dinosaur fact real or is it a Ms. Lewis lie?" I just laugh and say, "Let's go check the fossils. That's how we learn."